Hey everybody, it's Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases and the host of Fostering Change. You know what? I want to say thank you and welcome to season 7. Season 7, I can't believe it's here. Do me a big favor. I really want you to listen. I want you to comment, and I definitely want you to subscribe. So I hope you enjoy this season as much as I've enjoyed our guests. Well, you know what? It's so hard to believe that we are already rocking into season 7. Oh my gosh. By the way, as I think about this season, how it started, it's a little bit bittersweet for me. My boys are in their first full month away at Lynn University. It's been pretty quiet at the house. But you know what? I've been so lucky that, I've been busy enough with, comfort cases and our podcast. But as you all know, we are literally less than a month away for our glitz and glamour gala that we're having at the Woodmont Country Club. By the way, there's a very few number of tickets left, so please make sure that you get your tickets. It's going to be a night of fun-filled surprises, and I'm so happy that my friend Jen Lilly is coming back to actually MC. She's been filming a movie in the Hallmark Channel just recently and reached out to me, and she is so excited about MCing, and so am I. But you know what I'm really excited about is my next guest. The fact is that I have always said this in the last 13 years that I've been in this nonprofit arena, is that nonprofits were meant to work together. We are not supposed to be on separate islands. I understand that we're always worried about the who's going to get the dollar, but I always remind people there is plenty enough money to go around. And if we come together and we truly work together, we can truly solve the problem. Well, my next guest, her and I actually do that. We have been doing this for many years. Her and I are the only two nonprofits in our county that are actually international nonprofits. And we've made it a point to make sure that we get together for lunch. We talk all the time. We throw ideas from each other. And they just celebrated their 10th year. So without further ado, the founder of I Support the Girls, my friend, Dana Marlowe.
Hey Rob, so
It's so
good to
good to
see
see you. Happy
you.
10 years.
Thank you.
Oh my
Thank you.
gosh. Okay,
Thank
I got to
you.
jump right into this. How did it feel knowing that, 10, I remember when we celebrated our 10th year, it was just like, wow, it went by like that.
There are so many things as we just celebrated our 10 year. And again, theoretically, with a lot of organizations, nonprofits, like any big milestone year, you're celebrating throughout many months of that year, right? Um, but it some of it feels so surreal in the conversations that we've had with people going, remember when, you didn't have some big back end architecture database and we like had a legal pad and pen to keep track of all those bras and tampons? And so there's like some ways where we've seen epic growth, right? Any organization, 10 years, like the numbers, the data, but it's like you say, it's the stories that you hear that really shine light on what we do and highlight the impact that we have as nonprofits. So it's a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I have to tell you, that it's to me, I agree with you. It's the stories. I love when I hear from people that, started with us 13 years ago when we packed our very first comfort case. And, some of those volunteers are still with me. And just like you have volunteers that have been with you for the 10 years and to see the growth. And by the way, I'm going to throw this out there. You actually were on the Kelly Clarkson show as well. I mean, it's been a slam dunk for you.
It's been a wild ride. It's been such a wild ride, but yes, no, I'm happy to share about that. But we have for I know people are tuning in at all different given points and times, and so folks don't realize how close in proximity. Rob said that we are in the same county, and we live in a decent sized county of 1 million people here, and but our actual physical office spaces are like 2, 3 miles away. Like we're less than a 5K close, right? Like if we were doing one of those nonprofit 5Ks, you could probably go from Rob's office to mine and still have room, just like space to
Exactly.
share. And we have some of the same volunteers. Like
Yes.
some volunteers go to comfort cases on Mondays, Wednesdays, and then I support the girls on Tuesdays,
Yep.
Thursdays. And it's so fun. There have been a couple times where I'm like, bring this over to Rob, a shuttle, like a courier service with the volunteers, because for all nonprofits, right?
Yes,
Volunteers are the lifeblood of our
they are.
organization. And without them, we couldn't be packing, thousands and thousands of backpacks, for,
Or sending
kids in the
thousands
foster
and thousands
system.
of bras to, so I mean,
It's
yeah, our volunteers, I'll tell you, and I love it when I'm talking to them and they tell me, "Oh, I was just over and I support the girls." And it's just like, I mean, I've said this to you at lunch. I've said this to you as we're friends. This is exactly what nonprofits should be doing. And I've always
for
said
sure.
we need to all get together as nonprofits and really have a big round table and really talk about the fact of, how much more we could accomplish if we all just, came together for the growth.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, I've learned so much from Rob, right? One of the things that I think is really phenomenal is whenever you're going through, whether it's a major life stage, a major life milestone, um, or you're experiencing that, for startups, whether it's entrepreneurs or for nonprofit startups, there are certain like typical life cycles. So if you can talk to somebody who's going through it around the same time, that's incredibly beneficial. But if you can also talk to somebody who's gone through it, but relatively recently. So the memories, the ideas, the
Right.
feedback are still fresh. And it's not like, oh, yeah, sure, I did that, 20 years ago. It still could be helpful information. But for someone who just had very recent, fresh experiences, that's paramount. And that's where I've been also able to learn from Rob and comfort cases. And I would implore other folks who have nonprofits who are watching this or who are thinking about starting up a small business or an enterprise. Reach out to folks who recently have gone through it,
Mm.
whether it's for mentorship, for ideas, for feedback, because it's so invaluable. So invaluable. I can think back, and Rob and I have had many lunches together, but there was one where I think we were talking about like financial back end systems for a growing
Yes.
nonprofit, like,
Yes.
right? So we were talking about like accounting, but not like heavy in the weeds. So for
Right.
anyone watching who's like who, who are my friends who are like, Dana doesn't do accounting, right? That end,
I
I
remember
needed,
that.
right? And that was years. Oh my God, that had to be,
Oh, that was
I
years
don't know,
ago.
seven,
Years.
8 years ago. I don't
Yeah.
know. So like, and now we're totally, great in that space. But like when you're going through these normal development, organizational growth changes, having somebody who's done it in the relative recent years before you is so helpful as guidance.
Yeah,
So
and
thank you, Rob.
Dana, I have to agree with you. And I think that, especially where we're located, I mean, and the fact that we could Zoom anyone, I mean, I would talk to anybody. If somebody who was like thinking, I want to start a nonprofit, or, I speak to people about that quite often. And a lot of
For
times I'll
sure.
tell them, you know what? There's already so many of them in, doing that. And that's the other thing that really blows my mind is
Right.
that everybody seems to be, again, I know everybody has their own passion, but I mean, I remember just not long ago, there was somebody who you wanted to do the exact same thing we did.
Right.
And I said, that's amazing. I said, they were so surprised that I was so supportive. I said, but at the same time, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Wouldn't it be better if, like, maybe we did this together? We could have a bigger, larger outreach,
For
and that's
sure.
the thing I think that we miss when it comes to these nonprofits. But you also know we are in a time where nonprofit doors are closing.
We are, and it's really hard right now, um, because so many nonprofits either are closing or shutting down programs. They have to sunset programs because the grant funding is not there, or the corporate funding or individual funding, or however their funding is sourced, it's drying up or it's being reduced or it's been completely wiped away.
Yep.
And that's really hard. It's also it's hard for-profit businesses who are experiencing this. It's also hard for all of our friends who work in these spaces and in the government locally who have been impacted by different changes. But for us as nonprofits, for sure, it's really hard when you're trying to critically look and analyze the effectiveness of your programs.
Yeah.
And
And
what do
that's
you,
what I want to bring that up because, as you are in your 10th year, we're in our 13th year. I will tell you that this has been the hardest year since we started our nonprofit. We have seen the shrinkage of our corporate donors, and I think a
yes,
lot of it, and as I've had conversations with these donors, it's not that they don't love us, it's just that right now they're so unsure of what's going on, that they're holding those dollars as closely as possible before where they were very freely to give them. I've noticed
for
that
sure.
a big drop off of that. We've never really taken state or federal dollars, so that hasn't really affected us. But I also have noticed the individual donor, whereas where we make the majority of our is from individuals. And once again, as you said, I mean, you and I we actually live in an era, in the place of the mecca zone of the number of people losing their jobs. Um,
Yeah.
and with the number of offices, I mean, do you do the federal campaign,
The CFC,
CFC?
we do. And we've done it for several years. It's wonderful. Um, I don't know how it's going to go this year. As we are now in fall, marching closer to holiday season around the corner. I don't know how it's going to go. We're going to do it again. I think it's also important. I like to be able to collect that data, that year over year
Right,
data. And
right.
this is a very clear one with, as you mentioned, about the economic uncertainty happening in this climate. This is going to be an easy one. If it doesn't go well, sure. This is not a let's figure out why, let's have a huge meeting about this. This is a pretty clear delineated, like a, you know, X, XY kind of thing. I don't
Yeah,
know if you can see
exactly,
that, but
exactly.
so now that the kids are back in school full swing and you must be delivering and have delivered the last few months so many backpacks, and we are filling so many schools with menstrual hygiene products as well as um, their different clothing. They all have different nomenclature on what they call them, but like they have like clothing closets for any of their students who might need some of those products. And we fill it with clothing, with obviously new bras, all different sizes, training bras, sports bras, new underwear, etc. um, it's just a hard time of year for us, also getting the largest amount from individuals as we move closer to our end of year campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you know, you and I both are right in that ask that we do every single year. And but
Yeah.
I want our viewers and listeners to understand, the thing is that, when we do these federal campaigns and stuff, they actually charge us. So, there are fees involved with us to sign up with them. And sometimes you have to sit there and weigh,
Is it worth it?
is it worth it? I mean, the paperwork alone is crazy, but then,
Crazy.
then the fees that they charge along in there. And that's why I think it's so important. And I remind our listeners and our viewers, I support the girls. I support the girls. And I think, you're going to be able to click on a link, go to my friend Dana's website, and you're going to be able to donate. The thing is that I talk about this. I spoke about this to somebody today. Women's menstrual cycles need to be normalized. We need to continue to stop thinking that we live in the 1930s and the 1950s, and that if we don't talk about the period doesn't happen. Well, guess what? I'm a dad of a daughter. The period happens. And so, for women not to be able to have the proper products, for young girls not to be able to have the proper bra, I mean, I think that we for so many times, and you taught me this, is the fact that, people just didn't talk about it. And so they don't talk about it. They think it doesn't exist. There's not a problem, but there is a
Right.
problem. And, if there was never a time more that we need people to step up and start donating, now is the time for organizations like yours as well. Because what I'm looking at is, you stood in front of the Supreme Court, and you're in that costume of yours. You and I, we're cut from the same cloth, Dana. And so, I just think people need to really realize that now is the time to truly open up your wallet. Maybe not go to the Starbucks this week and really take that extra $10, because if you just said $10 adds up to $20, it could add up to $30 and could
For
make it
sure.
different for you and I, especially when it comes to stuff like shipping.
Shipping is so cost prohibitive.
Mm.
Rob and I have had so many conversations on shipping. It's ridiculous. And yeah, no, it does. Every little bit counts. Every This past summer, every lemonade stand that somebody wanted to have around the country. And I'm sure you get this too, when in the mail, we get these like a Ziploc bag and it have like $4.72 and like a
Good
crayon
Lord.
drawn note, from, Alyssa in Topeka who did a little thing in our honor and had a lemonade stand that day. And we love it. And every single donation to us, large and small, is so impactful. So like, whether, yes, it was Starbucks and the Kelly Clarkson show, recognizing I Support the Girls recently and giving us a really generous chunk of money, or a little girl in the Midwest who wanted to have a lemonade stand on a Saturday. Every little bit is carefully allocated, and we're very thoughtful with how that money then can best have the greatest impact. And we're just out there. I mean, like, our numbers have been staggering, and because we just celebrated our 10th, we've been talking about these numbers so much because there's so many different ways that we as nonprofits can measure success, right? So many different kinds of metrics. But at the end of the day, you need those metrics.
Do.
And you have to be able to showcase, here's where we were and here's where we are now. And what does that look like? And there's qualitative stories to share with that. There's pictures, and then there's just some hard data. And so, from a numbers perspective, we have donated 41 million products,
What?
right? So, like, and I know you're somebody who understands numbers because you're counting backpacks that are
Yes.
assembled and donated, and how many
41 million.
million. Yes. Do you know how many tractor trailer loads? Like, it's like ridiculous.
That is
So, because, and
crazy.
we're so grateful for our corporate partners who donate financially, and then we have a lot that also just donate in kind products.
Right.
Those 41 million products are, I mean, we have the full breakdowns of just millions of bras and new underwear, and children's underwear, all the way up like to 7X, and underwear for women, underwear for men, underwear for girls and boys. And we've done like just 10, like just so many millions, tens of millions, with maxi pads and tampons and new reusable products like menstrual cups and reusable pads and wipes, and so many different kinds of menstrual products that we've been able to donate in collaboration with partners, and also from people who are like, it's my 30th
Yep.
birthday and I
I've
don't
had
have
that.
presents. I want people to come. I want my friends to come and bring their gently used wash bras and a package of pads. And so those have added up. And all of the drives and collections that schools and businesses and houses of worship and religious institutions and universities, all of these places that have hosted these incredible collections and drives
Exactly.
for us, it all adds up, and we tally everything. And we've donated to over 5,500 vetted social service organizations like Comfort Cases. So, Rob opened with, we partnered together. It's
Yes.
not just the two of us chatting about nonprofit management and leadership and all of these other questions, or having fun at Halloween parties and whatnot, because it does. And also, if you're looking for like a very adorable uterus or tampon costume, I'm just saying, next month, hi, hello, I'm here. So we're also like partnering together. So we've donated tens of thousands of products to comfort cases that are part of that collective amount that have gone to over 5,500 different nonprofits. And that's
That's amazing
organizations.
because, by the way, you started me putting pads in our cases. So I mean,
Yay!
and
I
now
love it.
it is a regular. I mean,
I
we
love
get
it.
them from another foundation, we get them from
I
you,
love it.
you actually
Love it.
started the whole making sure that we had pads in our comfort cases. Because for years we didn't until you and I became friends, and you were like, why don't you have pads in your cases? And I was like, why don't we? And you're like, and so it happened.
Impact is so wild when you hear these stories. It's just so remarkable. And it's we've had these conversations because we've like you've partnered with so many different institutions, organizations that are getting out backpacks as well. We've to date we've worked with organizations, how I mean, just hundreds and hundreds of homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, low income public schools, organizations like yours, in the foster care space, and in that world, organizations helping victims of human trafficking and sex trafficking, many different LGBTQ plus organizations, First Nation organizations. I mean, we also have all these programs that people don't always know about, right? Like it's like, okay, that's an organization, they donate a lot of products, got it, check. But one of our largest programs outside of our affiliate network, which has 51 locations. Like I support the girls Tampa, and I support the girls Detroit, and I support the girls in San Diego and New York City. And we also have, I support the girls Australia, the Philippines, Pakistan, Germany, and Canada. So we're in 6 countries. Um, but we also do a huge amount of disaster relief
Right.
for wildfires, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, but also the government furlough. Unfortunately, wars. We've stepped in. We've had to put wars in our disaster relief program, um, and a whole lot of other kind of natural and man-made disasters. And we're second responders in those cases. And
And
we
we're
have
seeing
our
more and more of those. And so, it's amazing to be able to have, an organization like yours. And the same thing with us, where, we're sending to flood victims and people that,
good.
are literally being bussed in and dropped off at our vice president's house. We were actually there waiting and just handing
Wow.
out cases as these kids were coming off the bus, because you know what?
Wow.
That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be
Totally.
good humans. Listen up, everybody. It's been another unbelievable. Again, I say this, I always say, oh my gosh, I can't top this one. But, Dana, just having you as my friend means more to me than anything in the world. Having you again on, our podcast. I really want you and I to do a co-host podcast and bring on another nonprofit. I
We'll
think
do that.
so much fun. You and I co-hosting together. But listen up, everybody. Do me a big favor. The world goes around by doers. They really do. And maybe you don't have that extra dollar, but I will tell you what you have. You have the same exact thing that each and every one of us have, and that's time. That's time. So if you truly want to make a difference, go out and volunteer. If you're living in the area where you can drive, and by the way, I have had people drive to comfort cases that are 3 hours away and spend a day. My friend Dana, she also has that door open and those volunteers to be flooding in. So just do me a favor. If you can't donate, donate your time. This is another episode of Fostering Change, and I hope you all have a great day. And don't forget, get your tickets because our Glitz and Glamour gala is just around the corner. Take care, everyone.